Hello everyone, Shane Olson here from 3dtunes.com, and today I wanted to share a time-lapse video with you. I will be modeling a pinup, specifically the amazing sexy girl on the right that was originally designed by an amazing artist named Shane Glines. He draws these fantastic cartoon ladies, and you should look him up. He has a ton of artwork out there to explore, and this one just struck a chord with me, saying, model me. So I took up the challenge, and this is the first one of Shane Glines' models I've attempted. And this approach, this time I'm going to do things differently. I decided to make a puppet. It's kind of the only way I can describe it. It's a maquette, kind of like those wooden dolls that you use to draw with, that you use for reference. It's kind of that idea. And if you have seen my Gumroad tutorial, I basically build this frog out of pieces and parts and then pose it. And this is basically the same technique, except for I built the pieces and parts specifically to be repurposed over and over if I want to do pinups over and over. So that way I could start with this puppet every single time and then just model new poses, and I wanted to try it out. I liked it a lot, but I think going forward I would model it, I would still use the puppet, but I would model it in a T-pose and then I would pose it after the fact. Now with this one I posed it first and then I modeled it. It's fun, but the problem is you don't get symmetry. So you're modeling everything just like you would with clay, and you would have to model both sides of the face, both sides of the body. You don't get symmetry, which is fine. It's a nice exercise, but in the future I'd probably do symmetry first and then introduce asymmetry afterwards. So as you see here, I've dynameshed the puppet together and I'm smoothing it out, and I'm just trying to find the big shapes and the poses and things like that, and you can see the reference at the top left. And Shane Glines has a really unique style, and he brings certain things into most of his drawings over and over again. I've been following him for years, and I really like the way he uses straights and curves. You'll notice he has a straight on the front of his arm, of her arm, and then two rounds on the back, and he does the same thing with the legs. The front of the legs are straight, on the calves and the thighs, the back is very round. And so I tried to capture that when I model. It's a little more difficult because it's in 3 dimensions, but you can still pay homage to it, and you'll see that later. Here I'm just putting in the eyelids, just kind of carving them in. See, I have to go from the right side to the left side and match it because there isn't symmetry, and it's a really fun exercise. But I'm using a insert sphere for the nose, and I'll just kind of place it and put it in there, and then I will redynamesh it and smooth it back in, keeping that front edge. And I learned this technique from Michael DeFeo. He is an amazing artist that's worked at Blue Sky, and he's worked on Despicable Me, and I got the chance to meet him at CTN last year. Super great guy, but he likes to, he's a traditional sculptor, and he likes to work kind of traditionally but in the digital realm, which is laying pieces of geometry on top and then sculpting them in. So like I did with those lips, I laid some tubes on top of the surface and then I dynameshed them in when I was happy with the placement. Now here I'm just laying more tubes down for the eyelashes and then using a hook brush to pull the lashes out. And I just put some pupils in there for eye placement and eye direction, so I can kind of start getting an idea of which way she's looking and if her neck is bending the right way. And this, I just started with a sphere, and I'm just kind of laying in the general shape. I don't really care about the fine details. I'm just trying to frame her face and get some generic lines going. And I only have one angle that Shane drew his girl at, so I'm trying to find a way to continue those shapes around the back side, and so I'm just playing with it and seeing what happens. I'm trying to find some flows in the lines and seeing if I can drag those lines down the back. And I keep popping back and forth to expression, her expression, and where she's looking, and back to the hair. This is where I'm laying in the eyebrows. I'm using the retopo brush, and I just draw them on, and then I add thickness with the loop tool, the edge loop thickness tool. I think it's called panel loops. And that adds thickness, and then I reshape them after the fact. It takes a long time to work that hair in. Now this is not the final hair. This, like I said, it's just roughing in the large shapes. It's kind of like just taking a blob of clay and just throwing it on there and pulling it around until it looks good. Now I'm starting to find some swirls. Like I did a swirl on one and I liked it, so I wanted to see what it would look like if I did some additional swirls. And then it just kind of took off, and I just kept going with it because I liked it. A reoccurring theme all around. And I'm using the retopology brush again to build the swimming suit. And how that works is you just draw all the squares on the surface, and then you just add thickness. And since it's not symmetrical, again, I have to build each one separately and then connect them and add thickness, smooth them out, and there you go. And I'll add some wrinkles with, I have a cloth brush. Now I have a newsletter. I haven't really sent out any newsletters yet. I'm not a big fan of spam, but if you want to sign up for that, you can get my brushes like the cloth brush, and that's over at 3dtunes.com. You can check that out and sign up for the newsletter and get my user interface and brushes for free. And I just wanted to put that newsletter together to just send out notifications when I make new videos and things like that. And I'm updating my website soon, I hope. I'm doing the same thing with the bikini bottom right here, and I made it kind of thin, so I'm dragging it out wider now. And I'll do the same thing, I just add thickness and then shape it. Now you'll notice the front has really odd shape. It's kind of broken. And I didn't record it, but I go back and I rebuild the whole thing again because I didn't like how it was shaped. And you'll notice that Shane Glines likes to draw his feet on his girls really, really small and dainty, with a nice curve that comes off the front of the calf, or the shin, I guess, and curves down into the shoe, with the ankle popping back out the back. And I wanted to try and capture that. Now, this is my first attempt at trying to match the drawing one-to-one. And that's usually what I do, is I'll just try and see how close I can get right out of the box, just to see what it would look like in 3D. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And usually what happens is I will do a first pass like this, and then I will send it to the client or the art director and ask them, you know, what if it's even in the same ballpark, if that's what they had in mind, and then they can give me direction and I'll move on. And that's exactly what I did with this. Is I talked to Shane Glines, and he was gracious enough to offer me some direction, and that's why the final pinup doesn't look like the original drawing, because we tried to add more appeal to the 3D design than the original 3D model that I made that was based on the drawing there. So now you can see I'm putting in more swirls. Now at this point I'm going back through and I'm adding the swirls piece by piece, and all those are spheres that I've stretched and added a curl to, and then I can duplicate that curl over and over, and I can flip it and mirror it, and basically it gives you a very clean result between the strands of hair because they're separate pieces. And I'm just using the underlying original hair blob as a guide to run me through this, and I'm just kind of putting them in as I go, and I still keep the original top of the hair, but I push the rest of the blob back up inside so you can't see it, so all of these curls end up overlapping it. And I have a trick that I use if I want to get rid of seams, like at the top there where you see that really hard edge. I use a trim dynamic brush, and as long as they're both in the same subtool and you scrub over the top of those two things, the seam will disappear. So it's still there, there's still two separate pieces, but it will look as if it goes away. You'll see that in a second, I think. And gotta like that, bald on top and hair down the back. What do they call that, a skullet? So anyway, yeah, I'm just trying to get these curls. I'm trying to do some variation, get some big ones, some little ones, trying to get them curling opposite directions as much as I can, and paying attention to thickness and how it rolls off the back. And I'm also trying to pay attention to silhouette. Okay, now this is my first pass. This is what I submitted to Shane Glines first, and it says Keyshot all over there because I didn't have the version of Keyshot yet, but I bought it in the meantime. I was waiting for Keyshot to be released for ZBrush. And here's another pass, just in different color. I did a different, I didn't like how pale she was, and I wanted to make her a little more blonde, so I was trying some different colors there. And then this is Shane Glines' paint over the face. You can see how much more appealing it is than what I had before. And so what I did is I attempted to do that paint over, and this is the result of trying to match that paint over. You can see I adjusted the eyes and the mouth a whole bunch. And then this is the turnaround of me trying to mess around more with the hair. You can see how that seam is now gone in the back of the hair. And then Shane gave me another drawing saying maybe we should do some more geometrical shapes in the hair and give it more interest. And I really like that idea. So I tried to match it, and here is the attempt of me matching it. Now I kind of took it too far. I took the curls way too crisp, and they're very hard edged now and doesn't really look like hair anymore. So then I softened them up, and I like that much better, a lot more better. What do you say? I like it a lot better. Anyway, but then some of the pieces started to get too similar, and so I changed those. But this is the final result after lots and lots of tweaking, and this is the final render. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.